There we go. Let me just get this set. Welcome to the podcast, everybody. Happy International Workers' Day, May Day, May the 1st. Beltane. I'll explain all that in a minute. If you don't know what it is, you're about to find out. And the eagle-eared among you might notice that there's a different theme tune this week. I've been working on some new music for Northern Gothic 2, which I will be releasing at some point towards the end of the year, I reckon. So this is just a wee track. This is going to be the name of the album, I think. It's going to be called Letters to a Young Rebel, and this is going to be the intro. That's what the plan is. That can change. So I thought you would like that. I thought you guys on my who listen to this would appreciate that. It's pretty groovy. I really like it. I got it's weird. Turn it down a little bit. I got new software for my music production work, and I had to sort of go on a bit of a learning curve. The reason I got new stuff is because the stuff that I was using, they're called VSTs. I was using a lot of stuff by a company called Waves, and they changed their model really from you just buy the thing to a subscription, and people went mental. They hated it, but I fell out with them before then because I swapped platforms. I changed from Windows based to Mac just over a year ago, and I tried to bring the software that I'd bought with me, and I wasn't able to do it. They wouldn't, and I contacted the company and they said, no, you got to buy it all again. I went, yeah, fuck you, that's not happening. So it's a bit of a shame. It means that if I ever had to go back and do any edits on Northern Gothic, I wouldn't be able to do it because the plugins that I use to create the sounds I don't have them anymore. Or, well, I would probably have to buy them. And there's another reason that I don't want to do that, is because Waves, turns out, I didn't know this at the time, are in Israel, based in Israel, which I'm a supporter of the divestment and sanctions on Israel. So I did that by mistake. I didn't realise until it was much too late. So although it annoyed me at the time, in the end it's a good move for me because I moved to another company and I'm using not exclusively their software, but a lot of it, Sound Toys they're called, and I sprung for their package, the big package that they have, and it's bloody brilliant. I love it. It's really, really good. Really just good. Does what it says in the tin. I like that. So that was really fucking boring, wasn't it? So anyway, welcome to the podcast. Welcome to Politics, Culture and Some Other Shit. You can follow me on Instagram, on Twitter and on Patreon if you want to, for £1 a month. You can head over there and you get first access to everything that I put out, which isn't an awful lot these days. I'm sort of getting up to about one a week at the minute, but you know the crack. You know I'm not the most reliable person in the world when it comes to this. So there we go. Did you enjoy that little bit of music? I hope you did. It's very cool. I think so. It's very cool anyway. So let's get to it. What are we going to talk about today? We are going to talk about well, first of all, International Workers' Day. Now, the May Day parade is supposed to be today for the trade unions across the world, but in Belfast, we have it in the north of Ireland. Here, we have it on the Saturday. It's just passed. So I went up to that and I had a bit of a chat with a buddy of mine who's a shop steward, Jake Dunwoody. I'll play you that in full as we marched through the parade. I just interviewed him as we were walking. It was lovely. He's a great guy, very fond of him, very passionate, and I like that. And the great Mick Lynch was in Belfast, so I'll play a little bit of that, and he was the keynote speaker at the rally, which culminated at Belfast City Hall, and it was fantastic. And all the unions were there. They explained basically it was a rally of solidarity, in as unions are wont to do on International Workers' Day. But they also explained a lot of there was unions there that haven't. For example, there was the head teachers union. They were on strike during the week. They've never been on strike, first time ever. And as some of the speakers were saying from the stage, people like barristers and consultant surgeons and things like that, they're now talking about going out and strike. This is fucking nuts. The Tories have ran the country into the ground, and there's no sign of them letting up. They're so devoid. They're idiots. I mean, they really are idiots. And at this point, they've fucked everything up so badly that I don't know if they can fix it. They're certainly not. We're certainly not electing our best. We're not doing that, and that's on us, the voting public. But once these people get into power, it's just how anyone votes for a Tory or a Unionist at this point. I have no idea. I just don't understand. I genuinely don't get it. So we'll start at the beginning. What is International Workers' Day? We'll start at the beginning, the first beginning. What is May Day? So in Ireland, May Day has been celebrated in Ireland since pagan times as the Feast of Beltane. That's today. So we're going to light a little fire here later on at the house. And in latter times as Mary's Day. Traditionally, bonfires were lit to mark the coming of summer and to grant luck to people and livestock. Officially, Irish May Day holiday is the first Monday in May today. The tradition of a Maybush was reported as being suppressed by law and the magistrates in Dublin in the 18th century. Old traditions such as bonfires are no longer widely observed, though the practice still persists in some places across the country. Limerick, Clare and among other people in other counties still keep this tradition, including areas of Dublin city such as Ringsend. I would sort of generally disagree with that statement that it's not as widely practiced because it was practiced everywhere, and we know that Irish culture was suppressed by the British, so we all lost so many traditions, but it's still widely practiced. I mean, still loads of people practice it. We practice it here. There's 4 or 5 bonfires lit around our way tonight. When I say bonfires, they're fires in the back. We've got a wood burner in the backyard, and that's where we light our fire. So, yeah, and it's true. If you go to certain counties, you will see at night time there'll be fires lit all over in South Armagh. You get it as well quite a lot. You'll be driving this time at night time, and you'll see fires dotted throughout the countryside. So that's what it is traditionally. Now, what has it become with regards to trade unions, workers' rights, etc., etc.? It's become International Workers' Day. So International Workers' Day, also known as Labour Day in some countries, and often referred to as May Day, is a celebration of labourers and the working classes that is promoted by the international labour movement and occurs every year on the 1st of May or on the first Monday of May. Sorry, I'm reading this from Wikipedia for those of you that are listening and not watching. Traditionally, the 1st of May is the date of the European Spring Festival. So in Ireland, that's Beltane, right? In 1889, the Marxist International Socialist Congress met in Paris and established the Second International as a successor to the earlier International Working Men's Association. They adopted a resolution for the Great International Demonstration in support of the working class demands for the 8-hour day. The 1st of May date was chosen by the American Federation of Labour to commemorate the general strike in the United States, which began on the 1st of May 1886 and culminated in the Haymarket Affair 4 days later, which the Haymarket Affair, as you can see there, is also known as the Haymarket Massacre, the Haymarket Riot, or the Haymarket Incident, was the aftermath of a bombing that took place at a Labour demonstration in Haymarket Square, Chicago, Illinois. So, excuse me, the demonstration subsequently became a yearly event. In 1904, the 6th Congress of the Second International also called on all Social Democratic Party organisations and trade unions of all countries to demonstrate energetically on the 1st of May for the legal establishment of an 8-hour day, for the class demands of the proletariat, and for universal peace. What a bunch of bastards. These people, if you listen to the people who are opposed to this, you'd think that, this is evil stuff. Doesn't sound evil to me. The 1st of May, or the first Monday in May, is a national public holiday in many countries, as it is here. In most cases, as International Workers' Day or a similar name. Some countries celebrate a Labour Day on other dates significant to them, such as the United States and Canada, which celebrate Labour Day on the first Monday of September. In 1955, the Catholic Church dedicated the 1st of May to St. Joseph the Worker. St. Joseph is the patron saint of workers, craftsmen, among others. So there you go. You know what it is. And that's why we were out marching on a wee rally full of lovely flags and very colourful affairs they are. I'll show you some photographs from the day. It's interesting there, though, don't you think, that the 1st of May date was chosen by the American Federation of Labour, and it's one of the things that we don't associate America with workers' rights and the labour movement, but pre-World War II that very much was the case. The Socialist Party and the Communist Party in America were really big, and together they, I think, at their height, they maybe accounted for something like 30-40% of the votes. They were then, it was after World War II, then it became demonised. The Red Scare happened and the Joseph McCarthy hearings, and it basically wiped out the socialist parties and the Communist Party. And ever since then, America has been basically a one-party state, two sides of the same coin, two cheeks of the same arse types of parties. As long as you have the common enemy, which in those days was the Red Scare of the communists, we know we've gone through it all. It's been Muslims, it's been South American immigrants, and in this country we've had, I say this country, I mean the UK. Those same things, communists, the Red Scare, etc. As I was saying to Pete my mate Pete at the rally the other day, we're old enough to remember that the moral panic of the day was about us, Irish people. We were the flavour of the day, bogeyman, and people forget that. No one ever mentions that. So we've seen us go through the Middle East, turn their countries into hellholes. These ancient civilizations destroyed them and turned them into living hellholes, created a migrant crisis, and then we blame them for wanting to come to get away from the shit that we created. So then those people get villainised in the press, as they are now. They're coming from Sudan and other places, as you probably know. But at one point it was us. We Irish, we were the, we've gone through different iterations of this. In the 50s and the 60s, no dogs, no Irish, no blacks, that sort of thing. And then in the 80s and the 90s, it was us. I remember getting pulled in at airports and getting searched and questioned by shadowy figures who never identified themselves. Just because I was an Irish Catholic, it was, but just being Irish was the thing. Really, it wasn't even so much as being an Irish Catholic, although that was one of the things that they looked for. So it's important to remember those things. Whenever we see these things on the TV and in the press, where migrants and they create these phrases, small boats and all this sort of stuff. we must remember that at one point that was us. We were those people. We were the people that were being we were being villainized. We were being second-classed, third-classed, just by virtue of the fact of being alive and where we were born. So, anyway, I digress. So you know what International Workers' Day is now, don't you? So you're one better already, just for having tuned in. So, the man of the moment, the mighty Mick Lynch, was at the rally. So here he is leading the rally. I'm going to play this little video for you, and you can see it now. Let me just check that I've got the sound on for this. I do. I think I do. Okay. We'll find out in a minute, won't we? There we go. There he is. Oh, that didn't work, did it? I know it didn't work because I didn't have the audio in. So, sorry people. So it fixed it.
But you've done tremendous work. The trade unionists on this island are the salt of the earth. And they've kept our movement going through thick and thin. For all the struggles that you've had, the struggles for peace and justice and democracy, it's been the trade unions that have kept our spirits alive, that have kept this movement going, bringing all of our people together, no matter what their heritage, no matter what their background. And we have to keep doing it, because we know, as been said, the ultra-right are going to exploit division. They're seeking to do it in the south, they're seeking to do it up here, they're seeking to do it in England. Open Nazis are trying to divide our people one from another. And these Tories, these oligarchs as they should be called, some of the richest people in our society, are trying to blame some of the poorest people in the world for the problems over here. And we cannot allow that to happen.
So there he is, getting photographs with...
They want a fair society.
People.
They want an equal society. They want a world where they can live in decent standards of living, and they want a future for their children that's based on preserving our planet that we all rely on, preserving our society and living in a world of peace and justice. These are the best values of our movement, and we've got to make sure while we're fighting these battles on pay and conditions that we keep our eyes on the prize, because the task in front of us as trade unionists, as socialists, is to build a better world for all of us. That's what our forebears gave us the task of doing, and we've got to commit ourselves from this meeting going forward, all the other meetings. Build your union, build our movement, let's change this society, let's do the job for our people and create a better world for all. Thank you very much. Solidarity. Victory to the workers.
So there you go. Mick Lynch, what a guy. And he was talking about the rise of the far right, north and south. And the thing has broke my heart a little bit. I've mentioned it before in this podcast. Now, I know that we have racists in this country. You know, I would go so far as to say a certain amount of racism exists within my own family. Judging by some of the distasteful comments I've heard a few of them make from time to time, as I'm sure, which is kind of sadly normal. But don't let it be normalised. Don't let them away with it, as I don't, which is why half of them don't speak to me anymore. But I'm not so naive to think. I thought Ireland didn't have a racist problem, but it turns out we do. There's a crowd. I was just seeing this on my phone. I'll show you because I haven't got it loaded in. Oh look, there's Mythical Ireland. So there's the Beltane. See it on my phone there? You can see that bonfire being lit. See, these are the sort of people I follow on Instagram. So let me see if I can see it here. I just saw it there. I was scanning it while Mick Lynch was talking. and now it's gone away, as is... never mind. But there's a crowd called the Irish Alliance, and they have aligned themselves with the BNP crowd in England, and they go out protesting at migrant centres and all the rest of it. Now, my take on that is, I understand why a working class community would have questions about how they're going to provide the services needed for lots of immigrants coming into the community. We know that our primary school class sizes are already stretched to beyond breaking point. We don't have enough teachers, we don't have enough doctors, the health services is in crisis, etc., etc. So then you ship in, as Ireland has something like 70 or 80,000 Ukrainians, just for one example. That's a lot of people. But it's not that we can't accommodate them. We can. We've got the resources to do it, but the government doesn't allocate the resources properly. So I understand if a working class community says, excuse me, there's no problem, we can take these people, but you understand we're going to need extra help to deal with them. We're going to need resources allocated to the social services and infrastructure within the community to provide what these people need. Right? So I get that bit. So what happens is those resources aren't allocated, and that creates a vacuum. And into the vacuum go these far-right people, these Irish Alliance crowd, and they are aligned with the scum of the earth, the shitehawks. We've got lots of them here in Belfast, that Nolene Bunton, fucking idiot, and people like that, who are just fascist. What do you get? And they're all aligned. Their mates over here are all loyalists. That's who they associate with. So these fuckers down south that are trying to stir, trying to create tensions among the local people, the indigenous people, and the immigrants that are coming in looking for a new life in our country, they are aligned with British nationals, the Ulster loyalists. These people are all scum. They're politically defunct. It's an ideology of hate, division, conquest, superiority. And that's who... So the government aren't answering the questions for the local people or providing them with the resources. So these people come in and stir up the tensions. So they come in and go, we'll listen to you. And the people ask the questions, and then these people give them their answers. And then that's how you end up with a right-wing working class population. It's happened in England a few times over the 20th century. And it sadly it looks like it might be happening here. Although I don't know how successful they're going to be by their standards, but they're certainly creating waves, put it that way. And it's sad. It's really fucking sad. And the reason that I said that, because with Ireland, we are a nation of immigrants. We've been immigrating out of this country ever since we were conquered by the English, by the British. You know, our population has been decimated down to 2 million at one point from a high of 8.5 million. Do you know at the time of the English conquest of Ireland, the population of England was 8 million and the population of Ireland was 8.5 million? There was more people in Ireland. Isn't that nuts? But England was a nation state. We weren't. We were all just tribes and clans, all loosely affiliated. So, and easily conquered by our organised neighbour. And that's the key word there, organised. We need to get and stay organised in our workplaces and in our communities and in our societies, that these far-right elements that Mick Lynch have referred to don't get a foothold in working class communities. Because we know that they exist at an elite level, because elite level society overview of society does see the world in a in a pyramid that they're on the top of it and everything else is below. But we're working class people. We don't see it like that. We see the world as a more fair, more equitable, it should be a more fair, more equitable place where everybody's equal. Everyone has the same rights. That's not what these fuckers think. So I'll show you now. Now, as I said at the start, we've got an interview with my friend Jake Dunwoody, who is I'll explain it in the thing, but he's a shop steward. So here's some photographs from our day up in Belfast. Those of you that are listening to this and not watching, there's me interviewing Jake. You can see it right there, and there's Pete. I just realised how stupid looking these trainers are on me, so I'll be fucking throwing them out. There's my beautiful daughter, Summer. She's a wee rebel, so she is. Very proud of her, and that's Kelly, Pete's beautiful wife. You see Pete right there, you wonder how he got someone like Kelly. Sorry, Pete, you look like mutton compared to your wife. That's Jake in the middle, and there's me. And by the way, that same applies to me too. My wife's gorgeous. And this big fucking Irish head. And there's some of the workers from various unions. Don't know, I can't read their NIPSA. There's NIPSA. They were out. They were all out. Everyone was out. It was fantastic. So what I'll do is, there's me interviewing Jake, and there's Pete standing beside us. And I may as well. So I'll just play this. This interview. It's about 10 minutes, and you can hear the background. You can hear what was going on the day. So check it out. Testicles 1 2. Testicles 1 2. So here we are in Belfast. So I'm talking to Jake from, what's your union?
The Bakery Food and Allied Workers Union.
Bakery Food and Allied Workers Union.
Mentioned by Marx, by the way. So.
Oh, there we go. That's your bona fides.
Yes.
You're shop steward, right?
Yes, I'm branch secretary and shop steward. I have been for over 30 years.
Okay, so tell my listeners what you're doing here, what we're doing here today.
Well, today here we're celebrating International Workers' Day. This is what our May Day parade is. Not actually on the May Day itself, it's on the Saturday before it. And we're down here with the Belfast Trades Council, who organises this every year. And this is a time for solidarity, a bit of comradeship, meeting other friends from other unions, other brothers and sisters. And I will come here once a year. And it's basically, as a trade unionist, for me, it's the biggest day of the year.
Yeah. And how's the turnout this year?
The turnout has been very, very good this year. Last year was a bit of a bummer because it was the first parade we had after COVID, and I think people were a bit apprehensive about coming out. Plus, it was a bad day as well. But this was a really, really good turnout today. I think a lot of people are here for a certain individual, Mr. Mick Lynch, who came from the RMT. So they're coming here to see him speak at City Hall, which is a big, big, big thing. Great trade unionist. Shall I say, slayer of Tories and of right-wingers, and one of my heroes.
Good man. I was going to just come on to the Mick Lynch thing. As you've already said, Mick Lynch is here today. So do you know why our May Day is not on May Day?
Well, May Day used to be a bank holiday years ago, and I think it actually changed because of the working conditions have changed and terms and conditions have changed in most companies. A lot of companies like myself, we don't actually get May Day off. May Day is not a statutory holiday for us. So what they do is now they arrange it. Now, some years it's the last Saturday in April, and then sometimes it's the first Saturday in May, depending on what way it falls, what way the calendar is. But a lot of workers, like myself, don't get May Day off, so this is our opportunity to come down here and attend our rally. Although today I had to take a day's holiday to come here, but who cares? Big day.
There you go. You know what I mean? So, but as you it is a bit of a. I feel like it's a little bit of a coup to get Mick here, as you said.
So,
Mick Lynch, the slayer of Tories, the man is, he's almost he's re-energised the union movement, I would say, not single-handedly because he's admitted himself he doesn't do anything on his own, but with his ability to talk to these, to slay Tories and to put these fucking idiots on the TV in their place. He's managed to re-energise and become a bit of a rock star.
I think Mick's became a bit of a rock star in the trade union for the simple reason is we have this here sort of way like privileged Tories who think that guys and women who are in the trade union movement are ill-educated oiks. And the point is, whenever you're sort of faced with the reality of guys and girls who come up through the workforce and who actually represent workers in the workplace, and then get to their level of a leader of a major trade union, a major trade union, and he can hold his own, if not slaughter all around him, is a great thing for us, and it's a great thing for trade unionists and for shop stewards, branch secretaries, because the point is, he is the guy that we aspire to be. He's the guy. When Mick sort of speaks, he sort of.
So would you look at him as almost like you should be trying to emulate him in a lot of ways?
Certainly, very, very much so. Yeah. I've often said it to Peter. I mean, when Mick Lynch speaks, and you know my wife Fred, when Mick Lynch speaks, I want to get the red flag out in a T-34 tank. 100%. I want to storm. I want to storm Parliament. I want to storm Stormont. I want to go down, because the point is, he just lifts you up. And the point is, there's a lot of working class people who have been sort of subdued for so long, and have sort of fallen into this sort of trap. I mean, that's the way it is. But when you see Mick Lynch, you see Dempsey, you see these people you know what? Let's get into them. Let's really go for it. And that's the beauty of it. The fact that, I mean, I went over and often get a photograph taken with him, and he went, yeah, fair enough. I've got a photograph alongside, shall I say, a hero of the trade union movement. Yeah. He's up there with Scargill. You know what I mean? He's that type of guy, right?
100%, yeah.
And the point is, I mean, Scargill did it, very, very tough times. He's doing it after 12, 13 years of austerity. And aided and abetted by certain elements of the Liberal Democrats and by members of the Labour Party. But Mick has stood his ground for the working class. And for that, I mean, we owe him that kind of allegiance. We owe him that. We should emulate him, as you said. We should go out there and do what he's doing. We should sort of and we need to cultivate. I mean, we need to educate the working class, because the working class are in a situation where people don't want to know. People just want to bury their head in the sand. People like Peter, myself, Neil, Laura, Kevin, we're at the coalface. We're fighting battles day in, day out for members on the work floor. But when you see someone like a Mick, and he's come to my town, he's come to my hometown, in my May Day parade, I've got a photograph taken. He is going to speak with the Belfast trade unionists. It's a big, big, big deal for me.
Absolutely.
Massive deal for me.
I think the thing that Mick has done that I can see is, because he stays on message, he stays on point, and he shows how silly the capitalist and the Tory arguments are, and he punctures their arguments so simply. Yeah. And you see him do that time and time again, and that inspires me.
I watched him yesterday. He was in a parliamentary committee debate yesterday, and they were talking about this here, having levels of cover whenever there's a strike taking place. And basically what they've done is they've actually asked people to go against their democratic process, and he get into the Tory party and saying, this is probably what you're doing is probably what you would deem to be the most unconservative thing. You're taking away people's right to free speech. You're taking away people's right. And then you come back to the combination, actually 1823, 1825, when trade unions were banned from striking. We're going 200 years and we're still fighting the same battles that our forefathers fought 200 years ago for the trade union movement.
Well, every day of those 200 years they've tried to take those rights back.
As I've always said, Andy, people ask me, they're always critical of the trade unions, and then they're a wee bit au fait with conservatism and Tories, right? And I've always asked them, tell you what, name me two things the Conservative Party's ever done for the working people. And then they come back to me and say to me, well, name me what the trade union's done for us. And you rattle it off. Yeah. You rattle it off.
Well, rattle it off.
You know what I mean? Okay, right. I asked them, simple, right? 40-hour week, weekends off, sick pay, holiday pay, child benefits, voting for men and for women, although women got a lot later than men did. But the point is, all those are brought about. And our greatest achievement, I think, for the working class has been the National Health Service. And I think, which is trying to be stripped now by Tories and by elements of the Labour Party.
It's stripped, all right.
All those things were brought about through the trade union movement, through sacrifice, and a lot of men and women were put to death, and they were set up. Joe Hills of this, we're the Toll Puddle Martyrs. They all fought, they sacrificed all that for us. And the point is, I think we should remember. I think we should emulate. I think we'd actually do better than them. I think we should strive to be like them. Yeah. Toll Puddle or Joe Hill. Yeah. Or Connolly, whoever you want to talk about. We can talk about all these great heroes. The strange thing about it is, for me, as on the cusp of my 60th birthday, I revere the people who I was brought up to revile. And you know, and with age comes maturity, and you look at life through a panoramic view, and you see it for what it is, and then you realise, you know, those guys were my heroes. Yeah. You know what I mean? They always were. Yeah. And the point is, they're the people, Connolly. You know what I mean? Give me Connolly's Ireland tomorrow, and I'll dive at it. I'll dive at it. You know what I mean? But these are people who, one section of community here, or one section of society in the UK, look at, you know, they're reviled. But yet these people done so much to get what we have.
Well, they laid it down. They laid their literal lives down. Literal lives down in order that we can, as you said, we enjoy these rights, but and it's good to enjoy them. The sin, the crime, is that we take them for granted.
Yes, and they were hard won.
And
I mean, the point, as you say, it cost people their lives, right? And people have been sort of exiled to Australia, Botany Bay, whatever you want to call it, back in the day, because they had the audacity to form a trade union, right? Yeah. And I mean, a few years after the Tulpala martyrs, even though they come back to England, you know what I mean, they brought in the Combination Act, and they've done away with trade unionists actually formulating together to fight for their rights, you know? Yeah. And I find it difficult at times whenever I speak to other working class people who have absolutely no love for the trade union, but they have no understanding of what the trade union have given them, and all the rights and all the benefits that they have, and what we have in society, which are trying to be stripped away, I may add, by the Tory party.
But that is the battle. That is the battle. Is to let people know what it is a trade union does. Because if you just listen to, watch mainstream media, I hate using that word, that phrase, mainstream media, but it is apt in this instance. If you just listened and watched those outlets, you wouldn't know what a trade union has done for you.
No, it's not, because the trade unions, we are sidelined, and they bring them on like a Mick who can...
Sidelined and demonised?
Yes, sidelined and demonised, but you bring like a Mick on who can actually tie them up in knots. But the point is, trade unions have been given a bad rep by, as you would say, okay, we have like a Goebbels-esque, whatever you want to call it, media. Yeah. We have this propaganda sort of way. They're all propaganda outlets for the government, right? But you have Mick coming on, who's putting across a case that they can't argue against, right? But the point is, so what happens is, after Mick became to the fore as far as the trade union movement went, all of a sudden he was sidelined by the TV, by radio. Decided, because the point is, they didn't want his argument. They didn't want his argument to get out. They didn't want his cause to get out there.
They can't have him making them look bad.
Can't. No, because I mean, and the point is, he makes them look bad constantly. And honestly, I usually wear a hair.
Go ahead. Sorry.
I wear a hairnet in work, and when you watch Mick Lynch take on the Tories, it's about as difficult for him as me putting on my hairnet and work. and I mean that, or put my earmuffs on. It's so simple, because the point is, he gets to the core issue, and the point is, he slays them on their sort of way belief than what we have in a free society. What we have in a free society, because they deem about freedom of speech. And not that freedom of speech. You can't be talking like that. And they try and sort of way trip him up, and he laughs at them.
But the thing that I've noticed with the way that the discourse has gone between Mick Lynch and the mainstream media, when he was first sort of introduced to the wider public, they definitely went after him like he was a working class oik, as you says, and they didn't treat him with any respect. If he ever gets on those channels now, which is rare, they don't have the same level of disrespect.
No, they don't, because they're afraid of actually.
They know they're going to get crucified.
And that's it. And the point is, look, I know a lot of working class people who have come through tough times in their lives, not very well educated, but let me tell you something. See, when it comes to something like it being a dyed-in-the-wool socialist or fighting their corner for the workers, the time management up in knots.
Yeah.
And management have this. And management have this here sort of like inherent belief. You know what, sunshine? I've got a degree. You're basically, I work in the baking trade, so you're a donut. Yeah. Oh no, I'm not a donut, brother. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Smart. I mean, he sat with me. I run rings around our managers.
Yeah.
Because they set down rules for me and terms and conditions, and the point is, I have to fight my best case within those rules. Sometimes those rules can be a wee bit ambiguous, but that ambiguity gives me armour to fight back.
Yeah.
You know, the freedom of speech things get me at the minute, because the point is, you have this freedom of speech where the right wingers saying, you know, we can say what we want. That's okay. Well, can that be applied to us?
Yeah.
No, you can't say that.
Well, what they do is they frame they introduce these rules of engagement that are completely arbitrary and made up just to suit them. They're clearly that's what they are, and then we've got to conduct ourselves within their fucking rules.
Yeah.
You're like, why? Well, probably because it's legal, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, but it's legal on their terms.
It's legal on their terms.
You know, but see,
so we got to make our own terms.
Yes. And I've used this excuse or this argument on numerous occasions with the management to say, but it's legal, Jake. I said, no, it's legal, but is it moral? There's a difference.
100%.
Right? Is it moral?
100%.
You know what I mean? Oh, but it's within the rules. The rules are laid down. I says, no, but the point is, it's wrong.
Yeah,
it's morally wrong.
It's morally wrong,
and I think that's what happens with Parliament now, because Parliament bring in these acts of Parliament, they bring in these laws, they bring in these rules and regulations, right, to stymie us.
Yeah,
you're not allowed to strike. Oh, you have to give adequate strike
notice
cover.
And,
right? Now we follow the rules. See, I've been on strike. So you can on strike. You have to jump through loads and loads and loads of hoops.
But the general public doesn't know that. The general public thinks that you just go, fuck it, that's it, lightning strike, off we'll go. That. You gotta, it takes weeks and weeks and weeks of...
Well, look at this here, right? You go on strike, right? You don't get any pay for it. You lose a day's pay, because the company's not going to pay you because you're out on strike. You've withdrawn your labour, right? But people seem to think that, you know, this is a last resort. Striking is a last resort. You know, if you could sort of improve your terms and conditions and improve your wages without actually having to go out on the street, we would do it. But companies push you to the nth degree, and our last course of action is withdrawing our labour.
Yeah.
And the point is, when we withdraw our labour, then we prove how necessary we are and how essential we are for that company to make money.
Which is a very simple thing to get your head around, but it seems to be very difficult for a lot of people.
No, see, because, right, use the royal way in most companies, right? Management think that they're the way whenever the bonuses come in and the profits are up 1 year. Then the next year we're going for a pay rise, there is no profits, and then we become the way because we're the ones who have to make the sacrifice. We're the ones who have to change our terms and conditions, work longer hours for less money. That's how it works, the royal way.
Yeah.
And that really, really takes me to the floor. It really blows my mind. I mean, I have managers this weekend, right? They're off on Monday. They're off on May Day. They're off on my day. They're off on Workers' Day. They get that as a stat holiday, and I have to work it. How's that fair? See all the sacrifices that we've made in the trade union movement have made over the last 200 years. The people who get most out of that are managers. They get their 40-hour week. They get their weekends off. They get their full sick pay. They get everything. They get all the stat holidays. I get Christmas Day and the 12th of July. They get them all.
Yeah.
And people like me, better people than me back in the day, sacrificed to get those rights and get those days off for the workers, and they're the only ones who benefit from it, and I lose out.
Wow. Okay.
But it's true, Andy.
I know it's true. I'm going to wrap it up now because we're going to go into a loud thing where I won't be able to hear you talk.
Well, look, comrades, keep a good fight up, right? See the revolution? Let's keep fighting until hell freezes over, and see when it does, let's fight on the ice.
Yeah, up the workers. Testicles, 1, 2. What about that? I hope I don't get this, not get demonetized. I don't get any money for these on YouTube anyway. Not that there's enough views to make a difference, but I hope it doesn't get. I just realised because there was a song playing in the background there, and that's the sort of shit that they do. They'll turn around and cancel your video or take it down because of that. Whatever, fuck them. So there we go. That was Jake Dunwoody. Again, I forgot the name of his union, but it's basically Bakers Union. As he said, it was that union was actually mentioned by Marx. And what I don't know, but you know, Jake would be able to. I've seen something that he'd written. So there we go. What about that? Pretty cool. I think I like that stuff. I hope you do too. So thanks to Jake for agreeing to talk to me as we walked, and it was great fun. I loved being there. I got to hang out with some of my favourite people, and one of my most favourite people of all, my daughter Summer, who lives up in Belfast these days, and yeah, and that was that. That was great. So there we go. So, going to finish up. What have we got? What time have we got here? Yeah, about 40 minutes. So, we'll go to. I'm going to do this little scan of the things that I've kept on my socials. And I just found this literally while I was listening to Jake talking there. I came across this article on Twitter, and I had to snip it or save it because it is fucking hilarious and a very good example actually of how propaganda works. So it's a real-time lesson we're about to share with you. So you can see it right at the top there. It's the lessons from America's astonishing economic record, The Economist. Now, the interesting thing on Twitter is you weren't allowed to reply to it. There was no replies. They turned the replies off. So, you know, that's always suspicious. The world's biggest economy is leaving its peers even further in the dust. Oh dear, what the fuck are they talking about? This is insane. So check this out. I'm going to have a quick blast through this with you. If there's one thing that Americans of all political stripes can agree on, it is that the economy is broken. Donald Trump, who saw trade as a rip-off and his country in decline, came into office promising to make America great again. President Joe Biden has spent $2 trillion remaking the economy, hoping to build it back better. I hate that phrase. It's come from a think tank. That's just such marketing. Marketing is the hell sin of all sins. That's where that has come from. Some marketeers in a think tank. Build back better. You hear it all over the world. Now, they're using it for Ukraine. Build back better. Awful. Americans are worried. Nearly 4/5 tell their pollsters that their children will be worse off than they are. Their children are worse off than they are. Not will be. Are. And the most since the survey began in 1990, when only about 2/5 were as gloomy. The last time so many thought the economy was such a terrible shape. It was in the throes of a global financial crisis. Which one? This is the thing. Which one? Which global financial crisis are we talking about? The dot-com boom, the 2008 one, the one that we're in now. In the UK, we've had 12 years, 13 years now of austerity, which means no investment in public services. The housing crash in the 80s, the housing crash in the 90s, the economic doldrums of the 70s. Which global financial crisis are you talking about? So, here's the propaganda kicking in. Yet the anxiety obscures a stunning success story out of enduring but underappreciated outperformance. America remains the world's richest, most productive and most innovative big economy. By an impressive number of measures, it is leaving its peers even further in the dust. So what? So what? Right? So they're going to list here, it's just facts and figures from The Economist. I'm not going to bore you with them. American firms own more than 1/5 of the patents registered abroad. The record is impressive. America has nearly 1/3 more workers than 18. Blah, blah, blah. But these workers are working for less and less money. I showed you last week the difference between the productivity and the pay gap. Remember that? So this doesn't matter. Health insurance for the poorest has expanded notably under President Barack Obama. But more and more people are... there's the healthy insured. There are people that are insured, but their premiums that they have to pay up front means that they're technically uninsured because they're not going to be able to afford the out-of-hand extra expenses. So you've got one of the richest economies in the world, and your people are going to working themselves. The hardest working people on earth, by all accounts, certainly in the West work more hours for and getting for longer and longer and longer for less and less pay because of the pay gap, because of the productivity gap. So it's one of these. I just thought I'd share that with you. I'm gonna see the last paragraph here. The last paragraph of these articles is always interesting. The more that Americans think their economy is a problem in need of fixing, the more likely their politicians are to mess up the next 30 years. Well, okay. Although America's openness brought prosperity for its firms and its consumers, both Mr. Trump and Mr. Biden have turned to protectionism and the politics of immigration have become toxic. Subsidies can boost investment in deprived areas. Yeah, but they're not going to do all that. So it's okay. It's papering over the cracks a wee bit, but it's still a propaganda piece, especially with that headline. It's ridiculous. So let me just blast through my collection here. So we did Mick. We showed you Mick. That one. Yep. There's another one of Mick. And then there's one there. Now, I haven't watched it, but I'm going to watch it. And it's an hour-long documentary on YouTube. Untold History of the United States, Bush and Obama in the Age of Terror, 2013. Bush's doctrine of an endless war against terrorism manifests in the Department of Homeland Security in Iraq, Afghanistan, and a worldwide global state. The cannibalization of the US economy continues. So go check that out on YouTube. I will be. I haven't watched it yet. I bookmarked it in order to so that I would be able to see it later. So I thought I'd share that with you. This one here in Ireland. This is from RTE. A record 11,988 people homeless in month before eviction ban was lifted. So in the south, the eviction ban, basically landlords aren't allowed to evict people, but it's been lifted now. The number of people who are homeless has reached a new record high, with charities that work with individuals who are homeless calling the figures deeply upsetting, without a doubt. And in a country where there's plenty of houses, there's plenty of homes, plenty of buildings, there is space for these people, but they are ever increasingly in the hands of fewer and fewer hedge funds and vulture funds and things like that, and individuals who are basically landlords as a profession. Now, I personally am not against someone owning a home and then renting it out if it's a second home. I'm not against that at all, because we're living in a society which is increasingly harder to navigate your way through to retirement and with some sort of sense of security. So if someone manages to go and buy a second home and then they rent it out, I do not blame them for that, and I won't blame them for that. I don't think we should have a society where that's where that is a thing that happens. People shouldn't be thinking that they're going to have to do that. We should have our social safety nets should be in place in order that, and not whenever we pay into the system, so that whenever we can't, for example, when we're elderly or infirmed, we get looked after by the system, which is the point. And you can call it whatever you like, communism, socialism, give it any bad word you want. It's natural. It's normal for people to do this. You can't tell me. That's how we, as humans, we look after each other. I know if you're rich, you're not watching this or listening to this. If you're rich, you don't give a fuck. I get that. Like, I understand how the part of your brain that deals with empathy has shrank to the point that it doesn't work anymore. That's a scientific fact that has been proven. That you don't have to suffer empathy, as you would probably call it. But the rest of us do. We have empathy for each other. We look after each other. And the old saying goes that if you want charity, don't go to the rich. You go to the poor. You knock a poor man's door, he'll help you. So the fact that we live in a country where increasingly more and more people are finding themselves homeless is disgusting. And if Sinn Féin get into power in the south in the next election, it's priority number one. I think they need to sort this out. It's fucking ridiculous. And the government that are in place, the Fine Gael Fianna Fáil coalition that is in place, clearly aren't going to do anything about it, because like the Tories, they've been in power, like the Tories in the UK, they've been in power for so long and haven't done anything thus far. So you said, well, you created the crisis. It's not even that you sat in your hands and did nothing while this happened. They've actually created it. They are the political party of the landlords. They literally are that. And in Ireland, it has had such a marked history with landlordism. And I go to sessions here all the time, and you're going to hear 2 or 3 songs about some travesty that happened because of a landlord. Every session you go to, it's that it permeates our history so thoroughly, and that we're sitting here with this issue, this problem, and then if we can reference it back to the rise of the far right, these Irish Alliance fucking lunatics going into working class communities. So the government this is an example of it. The government is doing nothing. And I do believe that if you want charity, it's the working class that you go to. They will help you. They will carry you. But if you're going into working class communities that are they're so on their knees and so decimated by cost of living crisis and manufactured crisis that governments have created for decades now, and you're expecting them to absorb an influx of immigrants who, as Mick Lynch says, are the poorest people on earth, the refugees in a lot of cases, they have nothing. But you're expecting the people that are the poorest in your society to absorb them with no extra help. You're opening the door for the rise of these far-right fuckers who are, as I said, connected to the BNP and the loyalists here in the north, who are politically and morally in a political and moral vacuum. It's the politics of hate and division and othering. And this culture war, we've spoke about this culture war thing that's going on at the minute with the trans people. They're the people now. Before them it was the Muslims, before them it was the Russians, before them it was the Irish, before them it was the Muslims again, before them it was the Russians again, before them it was the Irish again. Now it's the trans people. That's all this is. It's just culture war bullshit. Create a moral panic. I remember back in the day, people used to ruin good records, playing them backwards, trying to find a message from the devil. That's all that is. It's the same thing. So we've got to be smarter, we've got to be wiser, and we've got to recognise what the problem is for what it is when it's happening. The working class people in the south of Ireland don't have the capacity to absorb massive numbers of migrants. The government need to be, if you're going to be putting these people into those communities, the government need to be backing those people up with resources. You got a school classroom with 35 kids in it. You can't be putting 4 people that don't speak English in it. You just can't. And expect it not to be disruptive, because it will be. So you need to put the resources there with them. If the kids are coming, if the people are coming, you need to be building them housing. You need to be allocating extra medical resources, extra social care resources, extra school resources, etc., etc., etc. But that's not what's happening. And as we can see, there's not enough houses to go around as it is. So, I'm not excusing anybody. Please don't think I am. I'm not. These people are fucking awful. But the working class people are being used. And they've been led into a trap by their government. So, now onwards. So this is one. Now, this is hilarious. Again, this is from RTE. Half of Irish adults do not know what the metaverse is. Do you know what the metaverse is? Half of the adults in Ireland do not know what the metaverse is, according to a new survey. The study, which was carried out by broadband company Pure Telecom, asked people about... I'd love to know who owns Pure Telecom. I bet it's something to do with Facebook. Asked people about their knowledge of the metaverse, a virtual reality world that allows people to meet and interact in interconnected 3D digital spaces and makes you feel sick. Apparently, if you keep these goggles on for a couple of hours, you start to get sick. Like you're getting seasick. Awareness of the medium was found to be highest among 16 to 23-year-olds at 59%, which I would say that's worryingly low for these people. 16 to 23-year-olds, only 59% of them are aware of what the metaverse is. Which is, the metaverse, by the way, is this alternative reality that they're trying to set up on Facebook. Now, as a user of Facebook, because I have to, because of my band, I fucking hate Facebook. I've always hated it. Hated the preppy colour scheme. Hated everything about it. But we went on to it as a replacement for MySpace back in the day. When MySpace was busy fucking collapsing inwards, we had to go somewhere. And Facebook was the platform of choice at the time. So we did. And it has worked for us. We've had to work hard at making Facebook work for us, but it's getting to the point now where it's been for quite a while now. It's no longer working for us. And I'm to be honest with you, whenever it goes, I can't wait. I hope it just dies. I really do. It's fucking awful. It's a disgusting place. And it's so difficult to navigate. I mean, I'm on it every day, doing band work. And I still struggle. There's just like you can't check this unless you do this, and it's always trying to get you to take out ads and do it. It's like it's awful. So that those people that own Facebook are trying to build this metaverse bullshit, which people aren't going for, and that it's as much of a disaster as Facebook is doesn't surprise me, because the choices that they're making on Facebook, if it's to be reflected in the metaverse, then it's naturally going to be a fucking nightmare, isn't it? So, back to the article. This fell to just 28% in the 55 to 73-year-olds age group. Wow. A survey of more than 1,000 people in Ireland was conducted by Censuswide and found that while the metaverse is yet to catch on with many, others are excited about its potential. Who? Everybody I'm talking to, you won't shut the fuck up about the metaverse. Don't know about you. My God, the metaverse. Would you fucking wise up? 1 in 8 of those surveyed said they would carry out their entire job in the metaverse if they could. Wow. We can't even get people to be. We can't even get agree to let people work from home. How the fuck is this? What are you going to sit in your office with this big stupid thing on your head, pretending you look like you're a character from an early Nintendo game? The graphics are awful. They're really, really bad. Really childish as well. So, there you go. I'm not going to read the rest of that. The metaverse is bullshit. We know it's bullshit. It's not going to work. Nearly done. Just going to hit another couple of these. So, this is an article on Reddit. Not an article, it was a post. Just a quick thing. Socialism has never worked. Yeah, that's why the US has backed dozens of coups on socialist countries and installed fascist dictators who privatise the economy for the interests of America. And that's obviously referencing, making the point of when you hear the argument, socialism has never worked or communism doesn't work or whatever. It's never been allowed to work. If socialism doesn't work, right, then America should immediately lift its embargoes on Cuba, which have been in place for 60 years now. Immediately. And we can literally watch Cuba collapse in on itself because it's such a failure of an ideology. It's such a failure of an economic system. It's such a failure of a way to organise your society. Okay, so if socialism doesn't work, lift the embargoes and we will watch socialism collapse in Cuba. Right? Right? That's the logic. If you're going to state one thing, then the other must be true. If you're going to say socialism doesn't work, then lift the embargoes on Cuba and we will watch Cuba collapse in on itself and turn to capitalism as you would prefer it to. Let's do that now. Let's see how that gets on. But they won't do it. I'm obviously being facetious. They won't do it because they know it's not going to happen. They know it's not going to collapse. They know it does work. So, if you ever hear that, you can use that argument. Here, the next article here is Kate Hoey. So Kate Hoey is a Labour MP turned independent peer. She's from the north of Ireland here, and she's an absolute fucking monster. Kate Hoey, she's an embarrassment. She's really a massive Brexiteer and all that stuff. Kate Hoey hits out a plans for publicly funded £150,000 statue to a 19th century American abolitionist in Belfast. Now, an abolitionist of slavery, that is, obviously. It's not just an abolitionist, it's Frederick Douglass. So, Frederick Douglass was born into slavery in America and went on to become a major anti-slavery campaigner. And he came to Ireland a few times. Twice, I think. His statue will stand in Lombard Street. Now, there's a picture of the great man. Very striking he is too. Very powerful looking facade. Baroness Hoey says, I can think of better ways for Belfast City Council to spend $150,000. Now, it must be stated, she doesn't live here. She hasn't lived here in decades. Since the 70s, I think. I think statues like this one should come about with donations from people living in the city or elsewhere who want to recognise and commemorate a figure they greatly respect. The local council should not be paying for it out of our rates, which in Belfast are very high. It's not her fucking rates. She doesn't live here. And neither should Stormont Department when they are having to make difficult decisions about financial cuts. Stormont's making decisions about financial cuts because the people that she supports, the DUP, won't go back into Stormont because they don't want to be seen serving, as they would say, under. It's not under, it's alongside. It's Deputy First Minister. It's not Deputy to the First Minister, it's Deputy First Minister. Which is a phrase that they came up with. There was Joint First Minister. They could be Joint First Minister. But they chose the Deputy First Minister because whenever they were the First Minister, then it was Sinn Féin. They wanted to be seen to be superior, top of the pyramid. So now they're not top of the pyramid when it comes to the votes that they're getting in elections. Now they don't want to serve under, as they would say it, a Sinn Féin. They don't want a Féin about the place, is all this is. So he says, whenever they're having to make difficult decisions, they don't have to make difficult decisions. Stormont is being forced into this position because the DUP won't go back into office. So, and it also, this opens up a Pandora's box and seems like gesture politics. Now, I would say, but personally, I would disagree with that statement completely, because Frederick Douglass is one of the most notable civil rights campaigners in history. He is a fantastic man. He was a friend of Daniel O'Connell. Let me see, just does it say here? I'll just have a wee quick scan of this. Yeah. During his time in the city, he held 11 talks about slavery, including at Rosemary Street Church, a stone's throw from where his statue will be. According to the website Frederick Douglass in Britain, Daniel O'Connell, the Irish Catholic rights advocate, dubbed Mr. Douglass the Black O'Connell. So he was a great man. He was well admired by great people in Irish history. So that's actually we're getting closer to the point there of why she would be against us, really, because she's against everything. Doesn't want a feeling about the place. Is all it is, and because he was advocating for civil rights of black people, as Daniel O'Connell was advocating for civil rights of Irish people. Well, this is obviously this is what she's against. She doesn't give a fuck about spunking away vast fortunes of money. She doesn't care. It's nothing. If she cared about that, she would resign immediately, because her being a baroness in the House of Lords is a waste of money. And I don't know what the salary is for I don't know what a lord gets these days, 70, 80 grand, something like that. £300 a day if they turn up, all this sort of stuff. Yeah. But she's costing a lot more than that. So, I haven't got this loaded. So there was a post there by Andrew Train at Tonistry. It won't load in because I haven't signed into Twitter on this app. And this is one. This is good. I wonder. So this guy is Juan Guaido. Do you remember who Juan Guaido is? Juan Guaido arrives in Miami after fleeing to Colombia and being promptly deported by the Colombian government. Juan Guaido is that guy that was... I'll turn the sound off for here because the guy speaks in Spanish and you don't know what he is. But this is him walking through the airport in Miami. Juan Guaido is the guy that... Will that open? Was recognised as the rightful president of Colombia, remember? Or not Colombia, Venezuela, remember? By basically every government in the world that was a puppet of the West. And the Venezuelan gold reserves were stolen and still remain unaccounted for by the Bank of England. So Juan Guaido was the CIA Organization of American States, OAS, which is a CIA cutout. He was their puppet that was going to replace Nicolas Maduro as the president of Venezuela. In the coups that they were trying to organise, but the Venezuelan people, thank God, didn't go for it, and they fought back. And this fucking ghoul, which is nuts that he's still alive, he should be shot as a traitor. I'm not into that. I'm not into the death penalty and all that stuff. But this guy was a clear and present danger to his own country, and it fits the literal definition of traitor. So you can see him there walking through the airport in Miami, which is where these people always end up, in Miami. Bolsonaro is in Miami, the ex-president of Brazil. So, yeah. He'll get a job. He'll get some cushy job, and he'll continue to be used as a useful idiot and just basically to get out there into the media and repeat the talking points that the American State Department, the CIA, want spewed about on social media. So this is the last one. I'm going to finish on this. This is Steve O'Timothy, the comedian, and because I mentioned it earlier on. In 1841, Ireland had a population of 8.5 million. In 1801, England's population was 8.3 million. By 1891, Ireland's population had decreased to under 5 million, while England's had increased to 27 million. Never underestimate the amount of devastation the famine caused. Yeah, and it continued to decline. It was a very long time before it started to curve. It bottomed out. It was a very long time. So there we go. We're done. There we go. We're done. I'm going to put the new theme tune on. Let me know. Will I keep this as the new theme tune, or will I go back to the old one? I kind of like it. I do like it. I've been grooving out on this wee riff all week. So there we go. Thanks everybody. Happy International Workers' Day. Happy May Day. Up the workers. shout out to my boy, James Connolly, the boy, the pride of Ireland and Scotland. James Connolly, there he is. I love this t-shirt. So I thought it would be appropriate to wear that today, with it being International Workers' Day. There he is, look at his big moustache, isn't that class? What a guy, what a hero. If we all had fucking 1/10 of the balls that man had. And the decency. So there we go. Podcast all done. So thanks for tuning in to Politics, Culture and Some Other Shit. Follow me on Twitter and on Instagram and on Patreon for £1 a month. I only have one tier and it just helps me. I just let it build up, and then if I need to go and buy a microphone or a couple of leads or something, I'd go and do that, which helps me out here in the studio, which helps me make music like this as well. And I bought this mic actually with money from the Patreon last year. So, because I started with the different tiers, if you remember, before I put it down to the one, and I ended up buying this mic, which is gorgeous. This is an English-made Aston, and I use it now for everything. I use it on everything. So that music that you're listening to, parts of it were recorded with this very mic. I have others. I have loads of them, like classic mics and lots of wee interesting shitty things, which are cool too. But there we go. So listen, thanks a million. Really appreciate you joining me today. I'm going to throw this up, as I said, it gets up on the Patreon first, and then I'll upload it to YouTube and to podcast apps. So that's me. Happy May Day, everybody. Up a workers.